Now, one technique that I've talked about in Muskie Hunter magazine and online, and Jim Sarek actually was able to film it in the first episode of Muskie Hunter television in season 7, is the dead stick technique. And this is the ultimate in slow speed depth control. And what it is often a muskie will follow a minnow bait or a jerk bait like a suic and not eat it. They'll just kind of come along and they'll be hanging underneath it. They won't do much. And these fish are prime for a dead stick. Now, it's one of those techniques that it's not going to work all the time. It might work 3, 4, 5, 6 times during the course of the season. But when it does, you're going to giggle like a schoolgirl. I do, and I'll admit it too. What it is you take a bait like this, a big minnow bait. This is a Magnum Shallow Raider by Booker Tackle, or like a suic, and those fish follow it. And if they're just kind of hanging underneath the bait, I let the bait go right up to the surface. Just rise right up to the surface. And let it lay there. And that's the tough part. It's just letting it lay there. And those fish will look at the bait, and the ones that you're going to catch are going to be the ones that are going to kind of go vertical. You'll see their tail kind of drop down, and their mouth will start to flex, and their jaws will start to flex. And those are the ones that will grab the bait eventually, sometimes. And you leave the bait lay. And as long as the jaws are flexing, leave the bait lay. If the fish starts to sink back down and melt, and they start to disappear, give the bait just the most subtle of twitches you possibly can. Just kind of pull it forward so it maybe goes under the surface a couple inches, moves forward about a foot. If you go too hard, you're going to spook the fish. That's one of the only absolutes in the dead stick technique. Pull it forward just slightly, and that fish will come back. And you might dink around with this fish for 2, 3, 4 minutes. But when they grab it, it's awesome. And all of a sudden, you're going to see that fish. He's going to lower his tail, and his mouth is going to flex. He's just going to keep flexing, and he's going to come slower and slower, but he's going to rise up. He's going to be right up underneath that bait, and he's going to grab it almost like a brown trout grabbing a mayfly off the surface. Sometimes there's even a pop, like that trout grabbing a fly off the surface. It's incredible like that. It's so subtle. Then it's absolutely imperative that you set the hook back down into the fish, because if you don't, if you set it upward, you're going to pull it out of the fish's mouth. You want to set back down into the fish, and then when you start swimming, then you can jack them again, and now you got them. But the dead stick with big minnow bait like this, or a mid-sized shallow raider, a suic, just an awesome technique for catching fish that otherwise you would not have been able to catch.